Your mind has been holding on to things it was never meant to carry for this long, replaying old pain, clinging to expectations, and resisting changes that have already taken place. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from life itself, but from the mind's attachment to what has passed. When the mind refuses to release, it becomes heavy, restless, and exhausted, making life feel harder than it truly is. The moment you begin to loosen this grip, something gentle happens within you. Your breath softens, your thoughts slow down, and the weight you have been carrying starts to fade. Letting go is not giving up or forgetting, it is learning to trust life enough to stop fighting it. When your mind releases what no longer belongs, life naturally moves closer, offering peace, clarity, and a quiet sense of being supported. Stay with me, because once you understand how to let go from the mind, you will finally allow life to love you the way it always intended. 1. Letting go is not loss, it is returning to balance. We fear letting go because we believe it means losing something valuable, something that once gave us comfort, identity, or meaning. The mind tells us that if we release our grip, we will become empty, weaker, or incomplete. But Buddhism teaches a very different truth. Suffering does not come from loss itself, it comes from attachment. It begins the moment we cling to what is changing by nature. Everything in life moves in cycles, people change, situations shift, and even the version of you that exists today is not meant to remain forever. You were never meant to carry every role, every pain, every expectation for a lifetime. Some experiences were meant to shape you, not stay with you. When you hold on to something past its natural time, imbalance begins quietly. Your heart grows heavy without you realizing why. Your mind becomes tense, constantly replaying the past or fearing the future. You feel restless even when nothing is outwardly wrong. This is not because life is cruel, but because you are resisting its flow. Letting go is not abandonment, weakness, or failure. It is an act of alignment. It is the moment you stop pulling against the current and allow yourself to float again. The moment you loosen your grip, something subtle but powerful happens inside you. Your breath deepens without effort. Your body softens. Your thoughts slow down. You no longer wake up carrying yesterday's weight into today. You stop trying to control outcomes that were never fully yours to command. Balance returns not because everything becomes perfect, but because you stop demanding that life remain the same. In that surrender, you are no longer fighting reality, and when the fight ends, peace naturally enters. Letting go does not erase love, meaning, or lessons. It honors them by allowing them to rest where they belong in the past, as part of your growth. When you release what has already served its purpose, you make space for clarity, calm, and quiet strength. Life begins to feel softer, not because it changes, but because you change how you meet it. Kindness replaces resistance, acceptance replaces exhaustion, and slowly, gently, you return to balance the place where life was always meant to meet you. 2. What leaves your life is making space for what truly belongs. One of the hardest things for the human heart to accept is that not everything that enters your life is meant to stay. When something leaves, whether it is a person, a dream, a phase, or a version of yourself, you may immediately label it as failure or loss. The mind asks, "Why did this happen to me?" And the heart feels empty, abandoned, or unfinished. But Buddhism teaches that nothing leaves without purpose. Life does not take things away to punish you, it removes them to restore harmony. When something exits your life, it is often because it no longer fits the person you are becoming. We suffer because we confuse attachment with belonging. Just because something mattered once does not mean it must remain forever. Some people come to teach you patience, some to teach you boundaries, and some to teach you self-respect. When their lesson is complete, holding on only creates stagnation. Life moves forward, but your heart stays stuck, clinging to what no longer aligns. That is when emptiness appears not as a curse, but as a signal. Buddhism reminds us that emptiness is not something to fear. Emptiness is space, and space is where new life enters. Think of your heart like a room filled with old furniture. Even if the furniture is broken, dusty, or painful to look at, it still takes up space. No matter how beautiful the new furniture waiting outside may be, it cannot enter until the room is cleared. When life removes something, it is clearing space within you, space for peace, space for clarity, space for relationships that do not drain you, and space for experiences that nourish rather than exhaust you. What feels like absence is often preparation. When you let go instead of chasing what left, something inside you relaxes. You stop asking life to return what it has already released. You stop begging the past to come back. In that acceptance, your energy shifts. You become open instead of desperate, grounded instead of grasping. Buddhism teaches that life flows toward openness. When your heart is unclenched, what truly belongs to you arrives naturally without force, without pain, without you having to abandon yourself. What leaves your life does not define your worth. It refines it. Every ending clears the path for a beginning that matches your growth. Trust that if something was meant to stay, it would have stayed with ease. And trust even more that what is meant for you will not require you to cling, beg, or break yourself to keep it. When you allow life to remove what no longer belongs, you are not being emptied, you are being prepared. 3. Suffering continues when you resist what is. Much of the pain we carry does not come from what happened, but from our refusal to accept that it happened. The event itself may have lasted a moment, a season, or a chapter of your life, but the suffering continues because the mind keeps arguing with reality. Buddhism teaches that pain is part of being human, but suffering is optional and it is created by resistance. When you say, "This should not have happened, they should have stayed, life should have been different," you are not changing the past. You are reopening the wound again and again. Resistance keeps you trapped in a loop. The body moves forward in time, but the mind remains stuck in what was. You replay conversations that are already over. You imagine different endings that will never arrive. You punish yourself with "if only" and "what if." Buddhism explains that the mind clings to these thoughts because it believes acceptance means weakness. But acceptance is not surrendering your dignity or approving the pain. Acceptance is simply seeing clearly. It is saying, "This is what happened and I cannot undo it." That honesty is the beginning of peace. When you resist reality, your nervous system stays tense. Your breath becomes shallow. Your body remains in a state of quiet stress, even during moments that should feel calm. You may notice that even when life becomes stable again, you still feel uneasy. That is because part of you is still fighting the past. Buddhism teaches that the moment you stop fighting what already is, your body begins to rest. The mind no longer has to defend itself. Energy that was trapped in resistance becomes available for healing. Acceptance does not arrive all at once. It comes gently, in small moments. It comes when you allow yourself to feel sadness without turning it into a story of failure. It comes when you let grief move through you instead of pushing it away. When you allow emotions to rise and fall without judgment, they lose their grip. Like waves, they pass when they are not resisted. The more you allow, the less they control you. Life softens when you stop arguing with it. The past loses its power when you stop demanding a different ending. Buddhism teaches that peace is not found by fixing every wound, but by stopping the inner struggle against reality. When resistance ends, suffering fades not because life becomes easy, but because you finally stop carrying what can no longer be changed. 4. Stop forcing life Let life carry you. One of the deepest sources of exhaustion in the human experience is the constant need to force life to behave the way we want. We force relationships to work even when they drain us. We force timelines, believing we are behind. We force happiness, success, healing, and even faith, thinking that if we push hard enough, peace will finally arrive. Buddhism teaches that this constant forcing is not strength, it is resistance disguised as effort. When you try to control life, you unknowingly place yourself against its natural movement, and anything pushed against a river eventually grows tired. From a young age, we are taught that effort means control. We are told to chase, to prove, to hold tightly, and to never let go. But life does not move through pressure, it moves through flow. A tree does not grow by pulling its branches upward. A river does not reach the ocean by arguing with rocks. Everything in nature progresses through allowance, not aggression. Buddhism reminds us that you too are part of nature, not separate from it. When you force life, you are fighting your own nature. Forcing life creates constant tension inside you. Even when things go well, you remain anxious, afraid they will fall apart. You overthink conversations, outcomes, and decisions. You replay your actions, wondering if you did enough or said the right thing. This mental strain slowly disconnects you from the present moment. You may be physically here, but your mind is always ahead or behind, never resting where life actually exists. Buddhism teaches that peace lives only in the present, and forcing life pulls you away from it. Letting life carry you does not mean becoming passive, careless, or irresponsible. It means releasing the illusion that you can control everything. It means doing your part sincerely, then stepping back and allowing the outcome to unfold. When you act with intention but release attachment to results, your energy changes. You are no longer desperate for validation or terrified of loss. You begin to trust that life has its own intelligence, one that does not need to be micromanaged by fear. When you stop forcing, something remarkable happens. Situations resolve themselves in unexpected ways. People show you who they are without you chasing answers. Opportunities arise that feel natural rather than stressful. Even difficulties feel lighter because you are not adding mental resistance on top of them. Buddhism teaches that when you align with life instead of pushing against it, you are supported rather than strained. Life responds to presence, not pressure. This shift also transforms how you relate to yourself. You stop blaming yourself for not being enough. You stop rushing your healing as if it were a task to complete. You allow growth to happen gradually, organically, in its own time. Instead of asking, "Why am I not there yet?" you begin asking, "What is life teaching me right now?" That question brings patience instead of panic, curiosity instead of self-judgment. Letting life carry you requires trust, not blind optimism, but quiet confidence. It is trusting that you do not need to control every detail to be safe. It is trusting that pauses are not delays, and detours are not mistakes. Buddhism teaches that the path unfolds step by step, not all at once. When you stop forcing life to reveal everything immediately, you discover that each moment already contains enough guidance. Force creates friction, flow creates harmony. When you release the need to control, you stop exhausting yourself emotionally and mentally. You begin moving with life instead of against it. And in that movement, you realize something deeply comforting. Life was never trying to resist you. It was waiting for you to stop resisting it. 5. Clinging is the fear of emptiness, but emptiness is where freedom begins. At the root of most human suffering lies a quiet fear that is rarely spoken out loud, the fear of emptiness. We cling to people, memories, identities, routines, and even pain because we are afraid of what we might feel if we let go. The mind whispers that without these attachments, there will be nothing left. Buddhism teaches that this fear is an illusion. Emptiness is not a void meant to swallow you. Emptiness is space, and space is where freedom, clarity, and peace are born. Clinging gives the illusion of safety. Even when something hurts us, it feels familiar, and familiarity feels controllable. We would rather hold on to known pain than step into the unknown without it. That is why people replay old wounds, stay emotionally attached to those who hurt them, or define themselves by past failures. Buddhism explains that clinging is not love, loyalty, or strength. It is fear disguised as attachment. And as long as fear leads, the heart remains tense. When you cling, your mind is never at rest. You constantly monitor what you might lose. You scan conversations for signs of rejection. You hold expectations tightly, and when reality does not meet them, disappointment deepens. This mental gripping consumes energy. Over time, it creates anxiety, exhaustion, and emotional burnout. Buddhism teaches that the mind suffers not because it lacks something, but because it refuses to release something. Emptiness in Buddhist wisdom does not mean nothingness, it means openness. It means freedom from fixed ideas of who you must be, what must happen, or how life should unfold. When you let go of rigid attachments, you discover that emptiness is spacious, not frightening. It is like opening a clenched fist and realizing your hand was never meant to stay closed forever. In that openness, breath flows more easily, thoughts slow down, and the body softens. Entering emptiness can feel uncomfortable at first. When attachments dissolve, old distractions disappear, and you are left alone with your thoughts and feelings. This is why many people avoid letting go. They fear meeting themselves without noise. Buddhism teaches that this discomfort is temporary. If you stay present instead of escaping, emptiness begins to feel like stillness. Stillness becomes clarity, and clarity reveals a deeper sense of self that does not depend on anything external. In emptiness, you are no longer defined by what you lost, what failed, or who left. You are not a role, a mistake, or a memory. You are awareness itself, calm, observing, and steady. Buddhism teaches that this awareness is your true nature. Everything else is temporary. When you experience life from this place, attachments lose their grip. You enjoy relationships without clinging. You pursue goals without desperation. You love without fear of loss. Freedom does not come from having more. It comes from needing less. When emptiness is no longer feared, life feels lighter. You stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours to hold forever. You stop chasing fulfillment outside yourself. You begin to trust that peace is not something to acquire, but something to uncover beneath attachment. As you learn to rest in emptiness, life meets you differently. Moments feel fuller even when they are simple. Silence becomes comforting instead of lonely. You begin to respond rather than react. Buddhism teaches that when you are not clinging, life flows through you naturally. Joy arrives without effort. Sadness passes without trapping you. Everything moves, and you move with it. Clinging promises safety but delivers suffering. Emptiness appears frightening but offers liberation. When you finally loosen your grip and allow emptiness to exist, you discover that nothing essential is lost. What falls away was never your true self. What remains is freedom, presence, and a quiet, unshakable peace. 6. Letting go is an act of deep self-compassion. Many people believe that holding on makes them strong. They believe that if they keep carrying the pain, replaying the memory, or staying attached to what hurt them, it proves their loyalty, their depth, or their endurance. Buddhism gently challenges this belief. It teaches that constantly holding on to suffering is not strength, it is self-harm, done quietly. Letting go is not giving up on love or meaning. Letting go is choosing to stop hurting yourself in the name of the past. It is one of the deepest forms of self-compassion you can practice. Self-compassion begins with honesty. You must first admit how much carrying the past has cost you. It has stolen your peace. It has interrupted your sleep. It has shaped your thoughts and influenced your reactions. You may notice that long after the situation ended, your body still reacts as if the danger is present. Your heart tightens easily. Your mind prepares for loss, even in safe moments. Buddhism teaches that the body remembers what the mind refuses to release. Holding on keeps your nervous system trapped in survival mode, always alert, always bracing, always tired. Many people confuse compassion with endurance. They believe that being kind means tolerating emotional pain endlessly, forgiving too quickly, or remaining attached to what repeatedly wounds them. But Buddhism teaches wisdom alongside compassion. True compassion does not ask you to stay where you are harmed. It asks you to protect your inner peace. Letting go is saying, I acknowledge my pain, and I choose not to deepen it. It is allowing yourself to rest from the weight you were never meant to carry forever. When you let go, you stop punishing yourself for what happened. You stop replaying conversations to prove your innocence. You stop imagining better endings that no longer exist. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's actions or absence. This release is not forgetfulness, it is forgiveness directed inward. It is forgiving yourself for not knowing then what you know now. Buddhism teaches that clinging to regret is a form of self-judgment, and judgment blocks healing. Letting go also means allowing your emotions to exist without turning them into identities. You may feel sadness, anger, grief, or disappointment, and that is natural. Buddhism does not teach emotional suppression. It teaches observation without attachment. When you let emotions rise and fall without labeling yourself as broken, weak, or unlovable, they lose their power to define you. Compassion means allowing yourself to feel without drowning in feeling. It means treating your emotions like visitors, not permanent residents. Self-compassion also requires patience. Healing does not happen on a schedule. You cannot force yourself to be over it. Buddhism teaches gentle persistence, not pressure. When you let go with compassion, you stop rushing your recovery. You allow your heart to unfold naturally, just as a wound heals in its own time when it is no longer disturbed. Every time you resist your own pace, you reopen the wound. Every time you allow yourself to heal slowly, the wound softens. As you practice letting go, you may notice moments of guilt. You may think, if I let go, does that mean it didn't matter? Buddhism answers clearly, letting go does not erase significance. It honors it by placing it where it belongs. You can value a lesson without carrying the pain. You can respect a memory without living inside it. Self-compassion understands the difference. It allows gratitude for growth without attachment to suffering. When compassion replaces clinging, your inner dialogue changes. You stop speaking to yourself harshly. You stop blaming yourself for needing time. You stop demanding emotional perfection. Instead, you begin offering yourself the same kindness you would give to someone you love. Buddhism teaches that inner peace grows when the mind becomes a safe place to rest. Letting go creates that safety. Over time, this compassion reshapes how you move through life. You become gentler in your expectations. You listen to your limits instead of ignoring them. You choose environments, relationships, and routines that support your well-being instead of draining it. Letting go becomes a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Each time you release what no longer serves you, you reinforce the message that your peace matters. Life responds to self-compassion in subtle ways. When you stop abandoning yourself emotionally, you stop attracting situations that mirror that abandonment. When you stop tolerating inner cruelty, outer boundaries strengthen naturally. Buddhism teaches that the way you treat your inner world shapes the world you experience. Letting go, practiced with compassion, transforms not only your inner state, but your entire relationship with life. In the end, letting go is not about becoming indifferent. It is about becoming kind to your mind, to your body, to your heart. It is choosing healing over habit, peace over punishment, and presence over pain. When you let go with compassion, you do not lose yourself. You finally return to yourself, lighter, softer, and whole. 7. When you let go, life finally meets you where you are. For a long time, many people live with the quiet belief that life will only love them once they become different. Different enough, healed enough, successful enough, calm enough. They believe that peace is a reward waiting at the end of struggle. Buddhism gently turns this belief upside down. It teaches that life is not withholding love from you. Life is present right now. What blocks that love is not imperfection, but resistance. When you let go, you stop standing in the doorway of your own experience. And that is when life finally meets you exactly where you are. Most suffering comes from trying to live somewhere other than the present moment. The mind lives in the past, replaying what hurt, or in the future, worrying about what might go wrong. You measure today against yesterday's losses, or tomorrow's fears. Buddhism teaches that life does not exist in those places. Life exists only here. When you cling to what was or chase what might be, you miss the only moment where love can actually reach you. Letting go is not about abandoning thought. It is about loosening its grip so you can return to now. When you release attachment, your attention softens. You begin to notice simple things again: the rhythm of your breath, the quiet between sounds, the way your body feels when it is no longer bracing for impact. These moments may seem small, but Buddhism teaches that they are sacred. Presence is not dramatic, it is subtle. And it is in this subtlety that life offers its support. When you are present, you are no longer demanding that life fix you. You are allowing life to accompany you. Letting go also changes how you experience joy and pain. Joy no longer feels fragile because you are not gripping it in fear of losing it. Pain no longer feels overwhelming because you are not resisting its presence. Buddhism teaches that both pleasure and pain are temporary. When you let go, you stop clinging to one and rejecting the other. You allow experiences to pass through you instead of defining you. Life feels less extreme, less punishing, and more spacious. As you practice letting go, you begin to trust movement rather than permanence. You stop expecting people, emotions, and circumstances to stay the same. This does not make you detached or cold. It makes you flexible. Like water, you adapt without breaking. Buddhism teaches that flexibility is a form of strength. When you are flexible, life does not need to shock you into change. You change naturally, gently, in rhythm with what unfolds. When life meets you where you are, it does not arrive with answers to every question. It arrives with guidance for the next step. Letting go teaches patience. You stop demanding clarity about the entire path. You learn to walk by trusting the step beneath your feet. This trust does not come from certainty, it comes from presence. Each moment contains enough information when you are fully there to receive it. This meeting between you and life also transforms how you relate to others. When you let go of expectations, you allow people to be who they are instead of who you need them to be. You listen more, you react less. You stop personalizing what is not yours to carry. Buddhism teaches that compassion grows naturally when attachment fades. You no longer need others to complete you, so you are free to meet them with openness instead of demand. Life feels kinder when you stop asking it to perform for you. You notice that even difficult moments carry wisdom, even uncertainty carries freedom, even endings carry beginnings. Letting go does not remove challenge, but it removes bitterness. You stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What is this moment asking of me?" That shift changes everything. It turns life into a teacher rather than an enemy. Over time, letting go becomes less about effort and more about awareness. You notice when the mind tightens, when the heart clings, when fear tries to take control. And instead of judging yourself, you soften, you breathe, you release. Buddhism teaches that awakening is not a sudden event. It is a continuous practice of returning to breath, returning to presence, returning to trust. When you let go, you realize that life was never distant. It was waiting patiently while you struggled to control it. The moment you stop fighting, life steps closer, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, steadily, with a gentleness that feels like relief. In that meeting, you understand something profound. You were never unloved. You were simply holding on too tightly to feel it. Letting go does not make life perfect. It makes life real. And in reality, love flows naturally. When you loosen your grip, open your awareness, and return to the present, life meets you not as a challenge to overcome, but as a companion walking beside you. And in that companionship you find peace not because everything is resolved, but because you finally are. 8. Letting go is not the end. It is the beginning of living fully. Many people secretly believe that letting go means something is finished forever, that once they release what mattered to them, life will become dull, empty, or emotionally flat. The mind fears that without attachment, passion will disappear and meaning will fade. Buddhism teaches the opposite. Letting go is not the end of life's richness. It is the beginning of truly experiencing it. When you let go, you do not lose depth. You recover it. You stop living in fragments of memory and fear, and you finally arrive in the fullness of the present moment. Before letting go, life often feels heavy. Even joyful moments carry tension because part of you is bracing for loss. You cannot fully enjoy happiness because you are afraid it will disappear. You cannot fully rest because your mind is always holding on to something unresolved. Buddhism explains that attachment divides your attention. Part of you is here, but part of you is gripping the past or guarding the future. Letting go reunites you with yourself. All of your awareness returns to now, and suddenly life feels vivid again. Living fully does not mean constant excitement or pleasure. Buddhism does not promise endless happiness. It promises clarity. When you let go, you experience moments exactly as they are, without distortion. A simple walk feels peaceful instead of rushed. Silence feels nourishing instead of lonely. Even boredom becomes spacious rather than irritating. These changes are subtle, but they are profound. They signal that you are no longer living through resistance. You are living through presence. Letting go also frees you from the false identities you have been carrying. Over time, people begin to define themselves by what happened to them who hurt them, what they lost, where they failed. These stories become heavy labels that shape every decision. Buddhism teaches that the self is not fixed. You are not your past experiences. You are the awareness witnessing them. When you let go of these identities, you are no longer confined by old narratives. You are free to respond to life freshly, without dragging yesterday into today. This freedom changes how you relate to uncertainty. Before letting go, uncertainty feels threatening. You want guarantees, clarity, and control. You fear making the wrong choice. After letting go, uncertainty becomes openness. You understand that not knowing is not danger, it is possibility. Buddhism teaches that life unfolds moment by moment, and trying to secure the future only robs you of the present. When you let go, you stop demanding certainty and start trusting movement. You discover that you do not need to see the entire path to walk it. Living fully also means allowing emotions to move naturally. Without attachment, you stop clinging to happiness and stop resisting sadness. Both are allowed to come and go. Buddhism teaches that emotions are like weather passing through the sky of awareness. When you let go, you stop identifying with the storm. You feel deeply, but you are not consumed. Joy is sweeter because you are not afraid of losing it. Pain is lighter because you are not fighting its presence. Emotional life becomes balanced instead of extreme. As you live with less attachment, your relationships transform. You no longer approach others with neediness or fear. You stop expecting people to fill your emptiness or validate your worth. This does not make you distant. It makes you sincere. You listen more fully because you are not busy defending yourself. You love more honestly because you are not trying to secure permanence. Buddhism teaches that true connection arises when two people meet without clinging. When you let go, your presence becomes a gift rather than a demand. Letting go also restores your connection to your body. Much of physical tension is caused by emotional holding. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, restless energy, these are often signs of attachment living in the body. When you release mentally, the body follows. Breath deepens naturally, muscles soften. Sleep improves. The body feels safer because it is no longer preparing for emotional impact. Buddhism recognizes the body as part of awareness, not separate from it. Letting go heals both mind and body together. Living fully means accepting impermanence, not as a threat, but as a teacher. When you truly understand that everything changes, you stop postponing life. You stop saying, "someday," and start noticing today. You appreciate moments not because they will last forever, but because they exist now. Buddhism teaches that impermanence makes life precious. Letting go allows you to honor each experience without trying to freeze it in time. As this understanding deepens, gratitude arises naturally. Not forced gratitude, but quiet appreciation. You notice the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of breath, the simple fact of being alive. These moments were always there, but attachment kept you distracted. Letting go clears your vision. You see life directly, without filters of fear or expectation. This clarity is not dramatic, it is peaceful, and peace in Buddhism is the highest form of fulfillment. Living fully also means embracing responsibility without burden. You still act, choose, and care, but you do so without emotional weight. You do what needs to be done, then you release the outcome. Buddhism teaches right action paired with non-attachment. This balance prevents burnout. You are engaged, but not consumed. You are committed, but not trapped. Life becomes something you participate in, not something you struggle against. Eventually, letting go stops feeling like something you do. It becomes something you understand. You see attachment arise, and you gently loosen it. You see resistance form, and you soften. There is no harsh discipline, no force, just awareness and kindness. Buddhism teaches that awakening is not an achievement. It is remembering how to live naturally without unnecessary tension. When you live fully through letting go, you realize that life was never asking you to hold on so tightly. It was inviting you to experience it directly. The past no longer controls you. The future no longer scares you. The present becomes enough. In that simplicity, you discover a deep truth. Letting go does not make life smaller. It makes life vast. You are no longer living half present, half attached. You are here, fully breathing, fully aware, fully alive. And in that state, life does not need to convince you of its beauty. You feel it quietly, steadily, moment by moment. Letting go is not the end of your story. It is the moment you finally step into it. 9. Letting go teaches you how to trust life again. One of the deepest wounds attachment creates is the loss of trust. After pain, disappointment, or loss, something inside you quietly closes. You may still move through life, still smile, still function, but trust becomes guarded. You stop trusting people, you stop trusting outcomes, and eventually you stop trusting life itself. Buddhism teaches that this loss of trust is not caused by what happened to you, but by what you held on to afterward. When you cling to pain, the mind learns to expect more pain. Letting go is how trust slowly, gently returns. At first, trust does not return as confidence. It returns as softness. It returns as the willingness to breathe without bracing. It returns as allowing moments to unfold without immediately preparing for disappointment. When you let go, you stop assuming that life is waiting to hurt you again. You begin to see that life moves in rhythms, not punishments. Some moments close, others open. Some paths end so others can begin. Buddhism teaches that mistrust grows when we personalize impermanence, when we believe change means rejection or failure. Letting go corrects this misunderstanding. Holding on teaches the nervous system to stay alert. Even in calm moments, your body prepares for loss. You may notice that when something good happens, part of you feels anxious instead of grateful. You think, "How long will this last?" or "What will go wrong next?" Buddhism explains that this fear is not intuition. It is attachment speaking. It is the residue of clinging to past pain. Letting go retrains the nervous system. Slowly, your body learns that it does not need to be on guard all the time. Safety becomes an internal state, not something dependent on circumstances. Trusting life again does not mean becoming naive or careless. Buddhism does not teach blind optimism. It teaches clarity. Trust means understanding that you cannot control everything, but you can meet everything with awareness. When you let go, you stop demanding guarantees from life. You stop needing certainty before you move forward. You learn to walk without knowing every step. This kind of trust is quiet and grounded. It does not come from believing nothing bad will happen. It comes from knowing you can handle what does. As trust returns, your relationship with uncertainty changes. Before, uncertainty felt threatening. It felt like standing on unstable ground. After letting go, uncertainty feels open. You no longer see it as danger, but as space. Space to grow, space to change, space to respond instead of react. Buddhism teaches that uncertainty is the natural state of life. Only the mind demands permanence. When you stop clinging, you stop fighting uncertainty. You begin to coexist with it peacefully. Letting go also heals your relationship with timing. When attachment is strong, impatience grows. You want answers now. You want closure now. You want peace now. And when life does not move at your pace, frustration builds. Buddhism teaches that forcing timing is another form of mistrust. It is saying, "I do not believe life knows what it is doing." Letting go allows patience to return. You begin to understand that some things ripen slowly. Some truths reveal themselves only after waiting. Trust grows when you allow time to do its work. As you let go, you may notice that life begins to surprise you in gentle ways. Not dramatic miracles, but subtle shifts. Conversations flow more easily. Opportunities appear without struggle. You feel guided rather than pushed. Buddhism teaches that when attachment loosens, awareness sharpens. You begin to notice signals you once ignored because fear was too loud. Trust is not about predicting outcomes. It is about being present enough to respond wisely when outcomes arrive. Trusting life again also changes how you see yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who was broken by the past. You stop defining yourself by survival alone. Letting go reveals your resilience without forcing you to relive pain. You realize that you have already endured change and are still here. This realization builds quiet confidence. Buddhism teaches that confidence rooted in experience is stronger than confidence built on control. Letting go reminds you of your inner stability. As trust deepens, you stop living defensively. You stop closing your heart prematurely. You stop assuming the worst before it happens. This does not mean you ignore red flags or abandon boundaries. It means you stop projecting past wounds onto present moments. You meet each experience freshly without carrying old conclusions into new situations. Buddhism teaches that every moment is new when you allow it to be. Letting go clears the lens through which you see life. Eventually, trust becomes less about belief and more about relationship. You develop a relationship with life itself. You begin to feel that life is not something happening to you, but something happening with you. Even challenges feel less personal. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How can I move with this?" That shift transforms struggle into learning, resistance into adaptation, fear into curiosity. Letting go does not guarantee ease, but it guarantees honesty. You stop lying to yourself about control. You stop pretending permanence exists. In that honesty, trust becomes possible. Buddhism teaches that truth is calming, even when it is difficult. When you accept how life truly works, impermanent, uncertain, flowing, you stop fighting it. And when the fight ends, trust quietly returns. Trusting life again is not a single moment. It is a gradual opening. Each time you release a fear, each time you loosen an expectation, each time you choose presence over panic, trust strengthens. Life does not need you to believe in it perfectly. It needs you to stop resisting it. When you let go, life does not become predictable. It becomes livable. And one day, you realize something profound. You are no longer waiting for life to prove itself to you. You are walking with it, side by side, moment by moment, without gripping, without fear, without needing certainty. That is when trust is no longer something you think about. It is something you live. 10. Letting go reveals the quiet power that was always within you. For a long time, you may have believed that your strength came from holding on to people, holding on to goals, holding on to identities, routines, and expectations. You told yourself that if you let go, you would become weak, directionless, or invisible. Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. The power you are looking for does not come from gripping life tighter. It comes from releasing what no longer belongs and discovering what remains when nothing is forced. Letting go does not take your power away. It returns it to you. When you cling, your energy is scattered. Part of you is stuck in the past, replaying what went wrong. Part of you is anxious about the future, trying to prevent pain from happening again. Very little of you is actually here. Buddhism teaches that power exists only in the present moment. When you are divided, your strength leaks away through worry, regret, and fear. Letting go gathers your energy back into one place. You stop feeding what is no longer alive, and that energy becomes available to you again. This is why letting go often feels like relief before it feels like peace. Suddenly, you are no longer managing emotional weight that was draining you quietly every day. You are no longer explaining yourself to memories. You are no longer carrying conversations that ended long ago. The mind becomes quieter, not because life is silent, but because you stop arguing with it. In that quiet, something steady begins to emerge. Buddhism calls this inner stability. It is not loud confidence or forceful certainty. It is calm presence. True power is not domination or control. Buddhism defines power as non-reactivity. When you let go, you are no longer easily shaken. Words do not hook you the same way. Situations do not trigger you as deeply. You begin to pause instead of react. That pause is powerful. In that pause, you choose your response instead of being driven by habit. You stop living on autopilot. You stop being pulled by every emotion or opinion that passes through your awareness. As this power grows, your relationship with fear changes. Fear does not disappear, but it loses authority. Before, fear dictated your choices. It told you when to speak, when to stay silent, when to hold on, and when to settle. Letting go exposes fear for what it is, a voice, not a command. Buddhism teaches that awareness weakens fear. When you observe fear without obeying it, you reclaim your freedom. That freedom is power. Letting go also frees you from the need to prove yourself. Much of human struggle comes from the desire to be seen, validated, or approved. You hold on to roles and achievements because they make you feel worthy. Buddhism teaches that worth is not something you earn, it is something you recognize. When you let go of external validation, you stop outsourcing your self-respect. You move through life with quiet dignity. You act because it is right, not because it will be praised. That integrity is strength. This inner power changes how you handle difficulty. When challenges arise, you no longer collapse inward or lash outward. You meet them with steadiness. You assess instead of panic. You adapt instead of resist. Buddhism teaches that flexibility is a form of power greater than rigidity. A rigid mind breaks under pressure. A flexible mind bends and returns. Letting go makes you flexible. You stop insisting that life follow one path, and because of that, you can move skillfully through many paths. As you release attachment, you also release comparison. You stop measuring your life against others. You stop asking whether you are ahead or behind. Buddhism teaches that comparison is a form of suffering because it pulls you out of your own experience. When you let go, you return to your own rhythm. You move at a pace that is natural for you. This alignment restores confidence without arrogance. You no longer need to compete to feel whole. Letting go reveals a deeper kind of courage, not the courage to fight, but the courage to be present with uncertainty. You stop demanding guarantees. You stop needing everything to make sense before you move forward. Buddhism teaches that courage is the willingness to stay open in the face of impermanence. When you let go, you discover that you can stand in the unknown without collapsing. That realization is empowering. You are no longer afraid of change because you trust your ability to meet it. This power also softens you. And softness, in Buddhism, is not weakness. It is sensitivity without fragility. You feel more, not less. You care deeply, but you are not consumed. You can be compassionate without losing yourself. You can love without clinging. Letting go creates boundaries that are natural rather than defensive. You know where you end and others begin. That clarity protects your energy without hardening your heart. Over time, this quiet power becomes your foundation. You no longer need dramatic moments to feel alive. You no longer seek chaos to feel significant. You find fulfillment in simplicity, in presence, in being. Buddhism teaches that when the mind is free from attachment, contentment arises naturally, not excitement, not constant pleasure. Contentment, a steady sense of enoughness. Letting go also returns you to authenticity. Without attachment, you stop performing versions of yourself that no longer fit. You speak more honestly, you listen more deeply. You make choices aligned with your values rather than your fears. This alignment creates a life that feels true. And a life that feels true is powerful. even when it is quiet. In the end, letting go does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot control. You focus on what you can, your awareness, your actions, your intentions. Buddhism teaches that mastery begins there, not in changing the world, but in understanding the mind that meets it. When you finally let go, you realize something profound. The strength you were searching for in control, attachment, and certainty was never there. It was always here, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the grip. Letting go does not give you power. It reveals the power that was always within you, steady, calm, and unshakable. 11. Letting go teaches you how to live without fear of loss. At the deepest level, most attachment is rooted in one fear: the fear of losing. Losing people, losing stability, losing meaning, losing control, losing yourself. This fear quietly shapes decisions, relationships, and even thoughts. You may not always notice it, but it is there in the hesitation before change, in the anxiety when things are going well, in the tension that appears whenever something feels uncertain. Buddhism teaches that this fear does not come from loss itself. It comes from misunderstanding the nature of life. Letting go is how that misunderstanding slowly dissolves. When you live in fear of loss, you are never fully present. Even happy moments feel fragile. You enjoy them, but you also guard them. Part of your attention is always preparing for the end. You love, but you cling. You succeed, but you worry. You rest, but you stay alert. Buddhism explains that this constant guarding exhausts the heart. You are not actually protecting yourself from pain, you are postponing peace. Letting go removes the need to guard what cannot be held forever. Living without fear of loss does not mean pretending loss will not happen. Buddhism does not deny impermanence, it embraces it. Everything changes, everything passes. But when you truly understand this, loss stops feeling like betrayal. It becomes part of movement. Like leaves falling from a tree, change is not personal, it is natural. Letting go allows you to experience life without constantly bracing for impact. You stop tightening your heart against what has not yet happened. Fear of loss also distorts how you love. When you are afraid of losing someone, you may hold them too tightly or expect them to fill your emotional gaps. You may sacrifice your truth to keep connection. Buddhism teaches that love rooted in fear is not free. It becomes anxious, demanding, and fragile. Letting go transforms love into presence. You appreciate people as they are, for as long as they are there, without needing guarantees. This kind of love is lighter, healthier, and more sincere. As you let go, you begin to see that loss does not take everything away. Even when something ends, something remains. Lessons remain. Growth remains. Awareness remains. You remain. Buddhism teaches that while forms change, consciousness continues. When you stop identifying yourself with what you might lose, you discover a deeper stability within you. This stability does not depend on circumstances. It depends on awareness, and awareness cannot be taken away. Fear of loss also keeps you from beginning new chapters. You hesitate to start again because you remember how it felt to lose before. Letting go heals this hesitation. It reminds you that every experience is temporary, but not meaningless. You stop avoiding connection out of fear. You stop delaying life, waiting for safety. Buddhism teaches that safety does not come from preventing loss. It comes from knowing you can meet loss without losing yourself. Living without fear of loss changes how you relate to success and failure. Before, success felt like something you had to protect. Failure felt like something that defined you. After letting go, success becomes something you enjoy without attachment, and failure becomes something you learn from without shame. You stop tying your identity to outcomes. You act fully, but you release results. Buddhism teaches that freedom comes when effort and attachment are separated. As fear loosens, gratitude deepens. You stop taking moments for granted. You stop postponing appreciation. You say what matters while you can. You show up fully because you are no longer assuming permanence. Letting go does not make life colder. It makes it more precious. Each moment becomes vivid because you are not numbing yourself with expectation. Eventually, you realize that fear of loss was never protecting you. It was keeping you half alive. Letting go invites you to live completely, even knowing everything changes. Buddhism teaches that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to live openly despite it. When you let go, fear no longer controls your choices. Life opens, not because it is safe, but because you are present. Living without fear of loss is not detachment from life, it is intimacy with life. You meet each experience fully, without gripping, without resistance, without denial. And in that openness, you discover a profound truth. Nothing essential is ever lost. What truly matters, awareness, growth, compassion, presence, remains with you always. Letting go does not empty your life. It frees it. Letting go is not a single decision you make once and forget about. It is a gentle practice you return to again and again, each time you notice your mind tightening, your heart clinging, or your breath becoming shallow. Buddhism does not ask you to erase your past, deny your pain, or pretend that loss did not matter. It simply invites you to stop carrying what has already finished teaching you. When you let go, you are not giving up on life. You are finally allowing yourself to live it fully. Throughout these lessons, one truth keeps returning. Life has never been your enemy. Life moves, changes, and reshapes itself not to break you, but to keep you growing. The suffering you felt did not come from life turning away from you, but from holding on to what was no longer meant to stay. When you loosen that grip, your energy returns, your breath deepens, your mind softens, you stop fighting the present moment, and in that surrender, peace quietly enters. Letting go teaches you to trust again, to love without fear, to stand steady without needing control. It shows you that strength does not come from clinging, but from presence, that freedom does not come from having everything, but from needing less, and that life does not ask you to be perfect, healed, or finished before it meets you. It meets you exactly as you are, the moment you stop resisting it. You do not let go to become empty. You let go to become open. Open to peace, open to growth, open to joy that is not dependent on circumstances. When you release the past, the future no longer frightens you, and the present becomes enough. In that space, life finally has room to love you, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily, gently, and honestly. So loosen your grip. Release what weighs you down. Trust the movement of life. What is meant for you will stay with ease. What leaves makes space for something truer. And as you let go, moment by moment, you will discover that life has been reaching for you all along, waiting patiently for your hands to open.